Spainhour. Now, David Spainhour was president of our local Santa Barbara Bank and Trust. And some years ago, I had a little tussle with him because I objected to what was happening with the credit cards and the way they were treating small businessmen. So I predicted a plastic problem, and I said we were becoming slaves to the credit card industry. But he was deaf to what I had to say, perhaps dumb as well. On one sale, Citibank screwed me out of $860, and it was easy to see what was happening to all of us. It was part and parcel of today's debacle. And it was plastic greed. They're still not blaming the credit card cartel for the larger part that they had in this financial web of deceit. The banks in this unholy alliance are still sucking the business owners dry. We've got to get rid of these leeches, the plastic industry or credit card cartel, whatever you want to call them, and get their shifty hands out of the merchants' pockets. Well, let's take a moment and say, oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light. Bobblehead. I'd like to make a David Spainhour bobbleheaded doll. To me, it would represent all the bankers across the country who bought into the Air Miles mythology and helped to create this mortgage crisis. Small businesses will be failing next because there's no money for them to borrow when they need it. Now, you're going to say, how can Howard lead this into today's crisis? Believe me, I can. But let's talk about plastic slavery again. One manager at a mid-state bank wrote me and told me that I was stupid. Mid-State Bank is now called Rabobank, which really, I mean, if you interchange the O and the A there, it's really a stupid name, isn't it? I say that all these banks and their managers, they are brought up, they're brainwashed on the same type of thinking, that credit cards were going to solve all our problems. Well, the credit card debt was transferred to mortgage debt. And mortgage debt, as you know, is down the tube, because the credit card debt that was transferred to mortgage debt became junk debt or subprime debt. Again, they're part of the problem. They're in league with the credit card cartel and the big banks. I'm talking about our smaller banks here in this area. But they're still all continuing to shaft the merchants as well as the cardholders. It was time for me to quit when I ran up against this. No, I'm not wrong. Today's stock market meltdown and the credit card cartel are problems that are interwoven. Add falling home values and the mortgage crisis to it. I lost my interest in being in business when I found myself enslaved by the credit card cartel. It was easy. It was simple arithmetic. So I say Bubblehead 2. The Spainhours retire, but they're succeeded by other bobbleheads who do the same things. With the MDR, the merchant's discount rate nationwide, sucking the profits from the small business owners. And as business slows down, the credit card industry will have more problems, but they'll make their cardholders pay through the nose. Under the new version of the bankruptcy laws, they're debtors forever, and we ought to have a national anthem for that. So there's more to come. The beginning of much of the mortgage debt crisis too often began with credit card debt. The credit card debt too often began with air miles. Simplistic? No. It was a scheme by Citibank and a cartel, and it'll cause still further problems with our economy. So go to Bobbleheads 3. The Bobbleheads of America have won. David Spainhour, for example, had 502,000 shares of his bank. He had no need to worry about the excessive NDR, MDR charges to our local merchants like me. Bankers are like that today. They're greedy. Profit is one thing, but skullduggery by the credit card cartel is another. It all contributed to the current financial problems of this nation. So we talk about freedoms. The freedom to assemble, the freedom to worship, the freedom of speech, and maybe the freedom to have a beer now and then, and sit back and say, what has happened to our government? Why did they allow it? Because Congress is full of liberals who believe that by giving people something, giving money away, it solves problems. But all of these financial transactions, these financial schemes, come once again to your doorstep. Only this time, they're not as gifts. This time, they come to your doorstep and they are taking and taking and taking. In the meantime, you, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, all have worries and all are suffering. The banks that collapse, the folks who invested in them in good faith, lose all their savings. Bankers have to be responsible for every single thing they do. And if the government says, you must do this, you must give unsafe loans, the bankers as a group should be rising up, protesting. Spainhour, David Spainhour, should have gotten up and gotten a group of bankers together and said, wait a minute, this is wrong. You're hitting the businessman in the pocketbook in the wrong way. You're hitting the debtors, house owners, mortgages. It's being done wrong. This is not proper procedure. We have to stop and think this out better. Congress is not right. So, folks, you can blame some of your problems or most of them on your local bankers because that's where it starts. It starts by doing things in a wrong manner, making loans that never should have been made. Say, oh, the government required us to do it. Well, then protest. You've got the education. You've got the lawyers. You do what should be done. You protest. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Thank you and good night.